Okay, now we are working in section 3, and lesson 2 is where we begin our first project. So we're going to go ahead and open a new Inkscape document, and this time we're going to go to File, Save As, and we're going to save this in section 3, and this is going to be called Shapes. So type in Shapes as your file name and save that in your section 3 folder. And first we're going to experiment with the rectangle tool. So over here in our toolbox, we're going to select the rectangle tool and start drawing some rectangles. So you can click and drag out to the right and you can make a rectangle. Or if you hold down Control while you're clicking and dragging, you'll see that it stays a little more proportional to give you either a square or a evenly matched rectangle. So let's draw a square for now to have even sides. And you'll notice that I have these squared handles on the corners and or a circle handle on the corner, and even with my rectangle up here too. So we can either, on the square handles, you can use that to resize your rectangle. So go ahead and you click on the top left square handle, resize handle, to drag up and make our rectangle a little taller, and then click on the bottom right resize handle to drag it out and make it a little wider. Now click on your square and we're going to click on the circle. Here is, let me review what that's called here. The circle handle on the square is a shape handle. So we're going to click on that shape handle, and if we drag that down, you'll notice how the corner edges of my square can be curved. So drag that down just a little ways, and we have nice curved edges on our square. So if I just did that to my square, and then I click and drag to draw another rectangle, you'll notice that the corners are curved just like on my square. So go ahead and do that, curve the corners on your square, and then click and drag to draw another rectangle that matches its curved corners. Now let's go back up to our rectangle and mess with this a little bit. I want you to grab your shape handle in the top right corner and drag that down as far down as it will go. And then grab it again and drag it as far left as it will go. So you should have a nice looking oval shape here that we made out of our rectangle. So that is one way that we can make a nice oval, or I can go back over here to my toolbox, and if I click on the ellipse tool, I can use that tool to create some ovals and circles. So if I click and drag, go ahead and click, find a space, click and drag down, and that can give you a nice oval shape. I'm going to go ahead and change the color of that just so you can see it a little better. Or if I click and hold down Control while I'm dragging, you'll notice that I get a nice proportionate circle by holding down Control. So now we're going to edit these ellipses just a little bit. So go ahead and click back on your oval that you made with your ellipse tool, and I want you to click and drag the left control handle to the right to make the oval narrower. So this left control handle, and if we drag it right about there, we can make our oval nice and narrow. So then click and drag the top control handle up to make the oval taller. So if we click on this top control handle, we can drag it higher or up to make that oval even taller. So now we're going to click on the circle to select it, and then click and drag the arc handle down to draw a segment or an arc. So the arc handle is this circle right here. This is our arc handle. So we can click and drag that down, and you'll see it kind of creates a piece of our circle. So if the mouse pointer is inside the circle, it will draw an arc. Okay, that's if we keep it inside the circle. If we take the mouse outside the circle, you'll see it draw a segment. Okay, so this is if we keep the mouse outside the circle, and if we keep the mouse inside the circle, you will see this. So go ahead and mess with that a little bit. I'd like to see a nice arc, like a fourth of a piece of pie, just like that. When you're finished, And so maybe if you have a piece of a circle here and you decided, nah, I'd rather have that be back to a full circle, that's where you will use these buttons up here, and we can click on the make the shape a whole ellipse button, and that will return our shape back to a whole ellipse, so it's no longer an arc or a segment of a circle. Next, we're going to look at the polygon and star tool. So over here in our toolbox, we choose this polygon and star tool. And you can go ahead and up here, make sure you have the polygon option selected, not the star, but right now we're going to work with polygons. So choose the polygon option, and for corners, I want to start with 3. So go ahead and set your corners to 3, and then click somewhere on your canvas, and you should get a nice rectangle. Or, sorry, I don't know my shapes, a nice triangle. And I'm going to just recolor this again so it's a little different than the rest of them. Okay, now that you've drawn a triangle, go back up to the corners option and click up once, and then you'll automatically see it adds an extra corner to our triangle, making it a square. And you can also, if you click on this, the resize and rotate handle on our square, we can resize and rotate that as we please. Go back up to your corners and add a couple more corners. Click all the way up until you have 9 corners, and you should have a shape that looks something like this. Now we're going to experiment with the star option of this tool. Leave that the way it is, unselect your polygon, and then go back to the tool and select stars so we're not altering our polygon shape that we made. And just for kicks, I'm going to make our star yellow. So make sure, let's set our corners to 5 and make a nice 5-point star here. So you can click and drag to create a star, and then you can select these resize and reshape handles to mess with your star shape, how pointy each corner is, how narrow it becomes. So click and drag out. Let's start it by make your star look about like this with kind of narrower handles. And then you can also increase the corners of your star. So we can do some pretty crazy, funky stuff with it, or rotate it around. Just kind of experiment with this star tool until you get some sort of star shape that you like best. Okay, now that we have a whole bunch of nice shapes created on our canvas, I'm going to just kind of move them around a little bit to get them to fit on our page here. Now we're going to talk about layers. Now you'll notice with these shapes, I created this this large oval first, so it's going to show up behind all my other shapes. Okay, they're kind of layered on top of each other, and I drew this star last, so it's going to be on top of all the other shapes when you drag it around. So those are all shapes that are layered, but we're going to talk about how we can move those shapes around onto different layers. So if you go up to your menu bar and select layer and go all the way down to the bottom where it says layers, and that opens up our layer panel over to the right. So once you have your layer panel open, you'll see that I have one layer in this entire project. Well, I want to add some more layers so that I can move these shapes around as I please. So if we click on this plus button, we can add a layer. So go ahead and click the plus button and then add a layer named ellipse, E-L-L-I-P-S-E. And for now we want to say above current. Go ahead and click add. And then we're going to do that again, and this time we're going to name this layer star and click add. So now you'll see over here in my layers panel here that I have 3 layers, a layer 1, an ellipse layer, and a star layer. So on my layer 1, I'm going to go ahead and going to grab my ellipses by holding down shift and clicking both of those, so I have them both selected. And then if I go up to my edit and say cut, that will cut those from that layer, but it's also automatically copied those images. So then I can click So then click on your ellipse layer, and we want to paste those images on our ellipse layer. So if I go over to Edit and say Paste, I now have those ellipses in my ellipse layer. And go ahead, we're going to do the same thing with our star layer. So right now it's on layer 1, so we have to go back to layer 1. And you can either hit Edit, Cut, or we can just do the quick version of Control X to cut that from layer 1, and Control V to paste that in our star layer. So something else we can do over in our layers panel is we can hide certain layers. So maybe at this point I don't want to see my ellipses. I can click on that eyeball and it automatically hides anything that is in that ellipse layer. Or if I want to hide layer 1, it'll hide everything on my layer 1. I can also lock my layers. So right now I can click on the different objects and it'll move from layer to layer depending on the object that I'm clicking on. But if I want to say lock my star layer, it won't let me select anything on that star layer. Or if I were to unlock that one and click on and lock my ellipse layer, then I can't select these blue circles that I have on my ellipse layer, only on what's on my star and layer 1. So that is how you can, again, you can hide layers by clicking on these eyeballs, or you can lock layers so that you don't, and the reason to lock a layer is so that you don't accidentally drag or move or make adjustments to a layer that you didn't want to make adjustments to. So once you feel comfortable enough experimenting with your rectangle tool, your ellipse tool, and your polygon star tool, go ahead and make sure you're saving that as a shapes document in your section 3 folder, and that is one part of our 3A assignment.